It's only been weeks since little Emmanuel Haro vanished, yet the weight of his disappearance feels like a lifetime of pain and unanswered questions. From the very first day, Jake and Rebecca Haro twisted their words, covering their tracks with lies at every phase. But the truth has a way of slipping out, and now it has. A neighbor, someone who lived right next to them, someone who saw the strange patterns and heard the unsettling noises, has finally broken their silence. And what they revealed doesn't just scratch at the Haro's lies, it tears the mask right off. Think about it. You live next door. You see when children are playing. You notice when a baby suddenly isn't seen for weeks. That's what this eyewitness lived through. And now they've shared their truth. And it changes everything we thought we knew about the Haros. Family, if you've been with us from the start, you know how many contradictions and false confessions we've had to untangle. But today, this isn't about police papers or courtroom games. This is the raw account of someone who stood right there in the neighborhood and saw the reality unfold. And before I reveal this shocking truth to you, I need you to do one thing: subscribe. Help us reach 2,000 strong, because Emmanuel deserves more than silence. Every subscription is a voice shouting for justice. Every voice is pressure to bring truth into the light. Stay with me, because what this neighbor exposed will shake everything we thought we knew about the Haros. The Haro home, a quiet house tucked into a California neighborhood. On the outside, it looked like any other home where children should be safe, should be laughing, should be playing. But behind those walls, something darker was unfolding. Let's rewind to the days before Emmanuel's disappearance. Neighbors told us, weeks before police even stepped in, they noticed something strange. Emmanuel, the baby, wasn't seen anymore. The other children, yes, they were sometimes spotted, but Emmanuel, gone, silent, erased from sight. Now, why does this matter? Because if Emmanuel had really died the way Jake Haro once claimed in his twisted confession, where is the body? Why wasn't anyone told where to find him? A real confession gives location, detail, closure. Instead, what we got from Jake was lie stacked on lie. And that tells us one thing: he's hiding the truth. Add this: the blood found in the home wasn't Emmanuel's at all. That shocking detail? It belonged to his 2-year-old sibling, abused by the very man who should have been protecting him. This is crucial because it breaks apart the idea that Emmanuel was killed that night. Instead, it lines up with what the eyewitness neighbor saw. Emmanuel hadn't been visible for weeks before police ever showed up. Now, pause here. Put yourself in that neighborhood. If you lived next door, if you saw children playing one week and then suddenly one is missing without a trace, would you believe the story the parents told? Or would you suspect, like this eyewitness did, that something much darker was hidden inside those walls? This is where the real investigation begins.
The neighbor's account is the crack in the wall that changes everything. They said Emmanuel wasn't seen for weeks before the police ever stepped into that house. Think about that. Weeks. A baby doesn't just vanish quietly from a household unless there's something being covered up. Now, here's where it gets disturbing. While Jake Haro was spinning his web of lies, first claiming Emmanuel died, then twisting his story again and again, the eyewitness pointed out something simple. Emmanuel was already gone long before Jake's so-called confession. If Jake's story of a sudden killing were true, the timeline would match, but it doesn't. It collapses under the weight of reality. And then, the blood. Investigators confirmed it belonged not to Emmanuel, but to his 2-year-old sibling. That changes everything. It tells us that what Jake confessed was nothing more than a smokescreen, a desperate, misleading attempt to hide the real truth, a truth that even now he refuses to give up. Neighbors also noticed the parents' behavior. Their body language didn't scream grief. It didn't show the raw pain of parents who just lost a baby. Instead, it showed deflection, avoidance, and coldness, almost as if they knew Emmanuel wasn't dead in that house, but somewhere else entirely. So ask yourself this: If a father confesses to killing his child but can't produce a body, can't say where it is, and all the physical evidence points away from his story, what does that really mean? This is why the neighbor's silence breaking is so critical. It shatters the lies. It puts us closer to the truth. Let's peel back the layers of lies, because with the Haros, every phase of this case has been marked by deception. First, Jake said Emmanuel was dead. But when pressed, his story twisted. He couldn't say how, couldn't say where, couldn't even produce the smallest shred of proof. Then came another lie, and another. It's almost like he was playing for time, weaving confusion so the real truth would stay hidden. Rebecca? Silence. Cold, calculated silence. She has 6 children. 6. And yet when asked about Emmanuel, her lips were sealed. A mother's instinct is to protect her baby, to fight for truth. But here we saw nothing. No desperation, no outrage, no heartbreak. Just silence. And it gets darker. If Emmanuel truly died the way Jake claimed, wouldn't Rebecca at least acknowledge it? Wouldn't she at least break down and confirm her husband's story? Instead, she hides in shadows while Jake tells lies that crumble under investigation. That's why the eyewitness neighbor's voice matters so much, because they were living just steps away. They saw Emmanuel vanish from sight weeks earlier. They noticed the strange patterns, the absence of a baby's cries, the odd behavior of the parents. Their testimony is the puzzle piece Jake and Rebecca couldn't control. Lies have a way of unraveling, and in this case, every single false word the Haros spoke only adds weight to one question: what really happened to Emmanuel? Friends, we're not just chasing rumors here. We're confronting a family whose every move reeks of deceit. And the more we did, the more the truth fights its way to the surface. Now let's step into one of the darkest parts of this story: the abuse. Because the Haros' home wasn't just a place of secrets, it was a place of suffering. The blood investigators found that day, it wasn't Emmanuel's, it was his 2-year-old siblings. Jake had abused his own child so violently that it left marks and evidence. That detail alone should chill every parent to the core. And yet, no trace of Emmanuel's blood was confirmed. Think about that. If Jake's so-called confession about killing Emmanuel was true, where's the evidence? Where's the body? Where are the details only a father would know? His words collapse under the weight of facts. He lied again, just as he has at every phase of this investigation. And neighbors back this up. They hadn't seen Emmanuel in weeks. Weeks. Not a single glimpse of a baby playing outside, not a single sound of him crying in the house. He simply vanished. So the blood we saw, the bruises, the injuries, they belong to another child, one of Emmanuel's siblings. But Emmanuel himself? Erased, hidden, removed from sight. Here's the brutal reality. What kind of parents abuse one child, lie about another, and then shut their doors in silence? Jake and Rebecca's behavior screams of guilt, but not the kind that matches their story. Not murder. Something worse. Something planned. The truth is starting to form its own shape, piece by piece. And friends, it doesn't point to Emmanuel being killed in that home. It points to something far darker, that he was taken away, that he was trafficked, that his presence was erased without a trace. And that is why this case is shaking people to the core. Then came the breakthrough. A neighbor, an eyewitness, finally broke the silence. They live close enough to see what most of us could only guess, and what they revealed flips everything upside down. This neighbor confirmed what so many suspected. Emmanuel hadn't been seen for weeks before the so-called discovery. Not a sound, not a glimpse, nothing. For a baby that young, silence doesn't just happen. Parents can lie, but neighbors? They notice. They see the patterns. They saw Emmanuel disappear. And that's why Jake's so-called confession doesn't add up.
If there was truly a killing, why no body? Why no details? Why no closure? His words are smoke and mirrors, a diversion. Rebecca's body language only deepens suspicion. Cold, detached, not the grief of a mourning mother, but the stiff mask of someone with secrets. Now connect the dots. The blood at the house, it belonged to the 2-year-old sibling abused on that same day. Emmanuel, gone weeks before. Jake's lies, a cover, not a confession. And the eyewitness testimony, the nail in the coffin of their story. So what are we left with? A chilling possibility. Emmanuel was not murdered, but trafficked. Erased from that home, taken into darkness, his voice silenced not by death, but by the cruelty of people who see children as property. And remember, this is California, a state already drowning in trafficking cases. This isn't far-fetched, it's real, it's happening, and Emmanuel may be one more innocent victim. Jake and Rebecca Haro have long deceived everyone around them, but the truth is clawing its way to the surface, piece by piece. And when the court date arrives, justice must not just knock, it must tear down their doors.
Family, let's be real. When a baby disappears, every second feels like eternity. No parent, no neighbor, no community should ever have to live with silence, confusion, and lies when an innocent life is unaccounted for. A child doesn't just vanish into thin air. Someone knows what happened, and someone is hiding the truth. Today is Sunday, and we are just 4 days away from another court appearance for Jake and Rebecca Haro. This Thursday, September 4th, 2025. Time is ticking, and this is not the moment to whisper. It's the moment to raise our voices in the air, to fill the atmosphere with the shout of "Justice for Emmanuel." Think about it. How does a baby vanish for weeks while parents spin lies at every turn, and yet the system drags its feet? Why has no body been found? Why does Rebecca look unbothered? Why does Jake twist his story like a snake shedding skin? And why do neighbors, the very people who live just next door, say they haven't seen Emmanuel in weeks? Now, I need to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments right now and tell me, deep down, what do you believe? Was Emmanuel killed? Or was he trafficked, hidden away, sold into the dark shadows where children vanish? Friends, this is where you come in. Don't just watch, stand with us. Every subscription is not just a number. It's a voice added to this movement, a voice demanding justice. We crossed 1,000 together. Now let's rise to 2,000, then 3,000, then 5,000. The bigger we get, the harder it becomes for anyone to silence the truth. So subscribe right now, share this everywhere, and let's make sure Emmanuel's story is not buried. His justice will not be denied. Raise your hands, raise your hearts, and raise your voice. Justice for Emmanuel. Let the whole world hear it before Thursday. Wickedness must end. Silence is not an option.